operation.
Now you are.
Okay. Good afternoon. This is the Roosevelt Island Operation Committee meeting. It is now 5:49. At today's meeting, we have on our Operations Committee meeting is Melissa Wade. Let's see. Lydia Tang should probably be here shortly. Howard Quallivy and Faye Fisher, the chair. Also at our meeting today, we have Javika Amin. She is our Chief Finance VP, Financial Officer. Mary Coonan, VP. Our Chief Operations Officer, Lada Saskal, is our Deputy General Counselor. Brian Daniels is our Assistant VP, Communications and Government Affairs.
Taking pictures.
Yes.
Taking pictures. And let's see, who did I, and I have
Alvarez, yes.
Alvarez, your last name?
Santa Maria.
Santa Maria, he's the VP of Engineering.
Engineering, correct.
Okay, and, yeah, I think I have everyone. Did I miss anyone?
Suzanne.
Suzanne.
Our
And
Suzanne.
Suzanne,
Suzanne Dooley.
Du-
She was not on the original list.
and she is our,
Assistant General Counsel.
yes, that's right. Okay, as our Assistant General Counsel. And I think I have not missed anyone from our very valued staff here at RIAC. Let's get on to our general meeting. On our agenda today, the first thing on the general agenda is the steam plant demolition update from the New York City Department of Housing Preservation and Development. I'm sorry, your name again, please?
Rachel Swack.
Ms. Rachel Swack.
Yeah, and I just want to kind of start off by saying, we're very thankful for Rachel coming tonight and really working with HPD on the plan for the demolition of the site. So thank you, Rachel.
Very happy you could make it.
So I'm happy to be here to answer any questions from the community, from RIAC. As you all well know, the steam plant was deemed to be an immediate hazard to the public, and HPD must complete demolition of the steam plant, including the steam stack. We have retained a contractor statewide who has already started some work, including site protection. I have here today an 8-week look-ahead schedule so that folks can better understand what the next steps are. I'm happy to pass those out.
You can share them.
Okay, yeah, I'll pass those around so that folks can take a look. But I really want to be here to talk about how HPD wants to make sure that we're partnering with RIAC and the community so that everybody's aware of what's going on and so that we can make sure that, I brought mine. Anyone else need one?
While we're waiting, I want to add to our, today, Benjamin Jones, our Chief Executive Officer, has joined our meeting.
So yeah, I'm here to answer any questions from this group because HPD wants to make sure that we're partnering with you so that you understand what's going on. We want to abate the immediate hazard to make sure that folks who live on the island, who visit the island, are all safe. As I mentioned, it's unfortunately an emergency, and we want to make sure that this is taken care of as quickly as possible and in a way that
Lydia, would you mind getting the Lydia's here? Thank you.
And in a way that isn't detrimental to the community, because we understand that the community here is very tight-knit, that you're on an island, and we want to make sure that the way that we're going about this demolition is sensitive to your needs. And so I know we've already been working closely with RIAC to better understand what the school schedules are, to understand how the tramway works, to make sure that we're taking all of that into account. Obviously, because it is an emergency demolition, there are certain things that just have to happen on a certain timeline. But that being said, we want to be sensitive to all of your concerns. I know we've also talked about having like go-to touch points so that if an issue comes up, that we're able to respond to it within a reasonable period of time. So I know one of the things that we've discussed is having an email mailbox that we're going to set up so that if anything comes up, you're able to reach out, get a response through REOC from HPD. And you may have also noticed that directly on the sites where we're setting up the site protection, there is a phone number you can call. So for some reason you see an unsafe condition that's happening, we want to know that immediately. That matters a lot to us as HPD. Our number one priority is always safety. So if you see anything that you think is not okay that's going on that site that poses an immediate threat, please call that phone number. If there's other questions or concerns, like I said, we'll be setting up an email box that you'll be able to reach out to. And also, I know I've been in very frequent contact with all of REOC to understand what the larger needs are of the community and what the long-term planning is. So you can see here the initial 8-week look-ahead schedule. We can't send like a look-ahead schedule for every single week of the whole demolition because, for honest, we don't exactly know what that'll look like. It's dependent on weather. It's dependent on, a few different things. I also know that one of the big concerns that's already been brought up is barging. We understand that there's very few streets on Roosevelt Island and that we want to minimize the impact as much as possible on traffic. So to that extent, when we put out the request for a contractor to respond, we really urged all of the contractors to look into barging. So we had our current contractor statewide, they're still undergoing a very extensive survey to look at how much barging is possible. So they have an engineer who's been on site looking at the seawall, looking at all the different feasibility factors, so that if barging is possible, we will be doing it. The one thing I will add to that, though, is because this is such a large and complex project, trucking will also be needed regardless. So even if they are able to remove a lot of the debris with barging, which we are strongly urging them to do if it's at all possible, there will also need to be trucking. And we're working closely with REOC to make sure that that trucking is happening at a reasonable schedule and it isn't a major obstruction. But, if I'm going to be totally honest with you, which I always am, demolitions are difficult, and a large-scale one like this will have some impacts on the community. So I wish I could say that we're only going to do it, when nobody's on the roads, but I know that it's difficult and that there will be impacts on the community, which is why I'm here tonight and why I want to be really clear that this is a dialogue, and we want to hear from you about if we can ever do anything to make things better, we will, with the understanding that just large-scale demolitions like these, we wouldn't do it if we didn't have to, and I promise you that. So with that, I don't know if there are other things that folks have questions about. I'm happy to chat through. Yeah.
Just one question, where exactly is this?
Yeah, of course. Well, I actually also brought out a map that I can distribute that has the site protection plans on it. I could talk through it, but I know that most people in this room probably know a lot more about the sites than I do, so I'll hand these out as well. But I'm sure you're all familiar with where the steam plant is and where the stacks are.
Judy has a question.
I have a lot of questions.
Yeah, of
Okay,
course.
first of all, why is this a drastic emergency that has to be done in 2 months? This building has been closed since 2013. The smokestacks have been in bad shape since probably since it's been closed. So why are you making this into a project that has to be finished by New Year's? That's crazy. There's so much abatement, and I've been in the building many times. I have pictures, I have firsthand knowledge of what it's like in there. Just to try and get it done so quickly is dangerous. The pollution involved. You have a subway tunnel underneath. You have the Queensboro Bridge next to you. You have a little thing called the tram. You have so many things that can encumber you. I want to know, is the fire department involved? DEP, all of these agencies have to be involved because you're taking down a very, very, very polluted building. And to us, we'd rather see it come down safely and slowly rather than knock it out in 2 months. That's crazy. I was here the day Goldwater Hospital closed, November of 2013. It took them 2.5 years to take that 6 million square foot building down. And that was done slowly and carefully, because there was asbestos in the brickwork, there was lead contaminants all over the place. You cannot do this and do a safe job in 2 months. The amount of work needed just on the inside of that building to get this equipment out is dangerous, and it's very hazardous work. And just to see, we're gonna do all of this stuff in 2 months is crazy. It's absolutely crazy. We have a tennis bubble next door, we have a tram with 2 smokestacks. How they're gonna be removed safely, and have to protect the area. So I really think that pushing this through on a 2-month schedule is a menace and a danger to our community. Also, I can show you pictures, Goldwater Hospital had about 50 containers lined up, of course, they had a big parking lot, lined up, and as they demolished, they took the containers, put them on a barge, and took them to Never Never Land somewhere. But it was done slowly and carefully. There were never any problems with the Goldwater demolition. You have a 1-lane street there. You know what it's like, that's probably the worst paved street on Roosevelt Island. Just to get trucks and things around that curve. Oh, also you're interfering with the ferry schedule, I forgot. And it's so dangerous, and to see this process rushed through is scary. This should be done slowly and carefully, not as a 2-month project.
So I absolutely agree with you.
Yes.
And you mentioned your name was Judy?
Yeah,
Okay. So we're not doing this on a 2-month schedule, so I think I was a little misleading when I handed this out. This is a schedule for the first 2 months. So we were initially anticipating that this project would last about 6 months. As it's gotten more complicated, we've extended that to 9 to 12 months. So there is no possible way we would do this in 2 months, and we want to do this as safely and carefully as possible. And the contractor that we're working with statewide has a lot of experience working on large-scale, complicated projects that also include asbestos, that include types of abatement. I will say, in terms of your question about this being an emergency, I also brought copies of the emergency declaration of when this was designated. So what I will say is, I wasn't on the island years ago to see it deteriorate slowly, but I do know that once the city determines that something's an immediate hazard, then it becomes an immediate hazard. Maybe it was an immediate hazard before that, I can't speak to that, but I know that once there's any sort of concern that something's gonna collapse and harm people, that's why we have to take immediate action there. But immediate action doesn't mean rushed action, or that we do it as fast as possible. So our contractor is working very thoughtfully about how to do this step by step in a way that's safest, both in terms of environmental remediation, in terms of trucking, getting things off of the island, doing barging if at all possible. I know when we've been talking to them recently, and we've been asking them about barging, they're talking about well, we have people down on the seawall doing types of investigations I don't understand. I'm not an engineer. So I will say this is being done extremely carefully by an entity that has a lot of experience with this, and that HPD has a lot of experience doing oversight of these types of projects, so that no matter what, we're making sure this is done safely. It is an immediate hazard, and we just cannot let something that's an immediate hazard stick around.
I will show you pictures of, Tishman was the general contractor, and they figured out how to take out a piece of the seawall. It was the other side of the bridge. Take out a piece of the seawall, right, Mary? They put a pier in, and it worked fine. They figured it out, so I'm sure HPD and statewide can also consult with them and see what, because it's a big deal to take a piece of our promenade out, and they did it, and they were responsible, and they replaced it. And, it worked, because there were minimal amount of trucks going through. What are you going to do? Cornell buried the bricks that they didn't need in a hill. Every single brick from that building has to leave the island, I presume. That's,
Before we talk about leaving the island, I've heard over 20 times, I'm an architect, my name is Dora Boyajieva. I run my practice from the island.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm a licensed architect, and also I'm raising my family here. And I heard over 10 times, in this conversation, emergency, it's kind of, it makes red light go in my brain. So that's the red light of a regular person, lay woman. But I'm also a professional, and I walk by this building every day, and it's my professional eyes that look up every day at the building. And looking for signs of deterioration of the facade, even though the brick in the facade is not low bearing. mind you. And I don't see deterioration. And I kind of disagree with the statement that once the city decides something is emergency, it's emergency. I mean, it's not the city that decides, it's the gravity that decides, right? The gravity. So is the structure of this building compromised, and can we see the structural report?
So I can show you right now
I've read the thing that's on the, it's not enough, I'm sorry, but this is not serious structural report. Serious structural report involves forensics, just for everybody, to show a little bit of my experience. Looking at foundations, looking at columns, looking at primary structure, looking at secondary structure. This looks unserious to me. And with this comes the next question: how much does it cost, and why are we rushing so much? I mean, we have a wonderful initiative starting right now, and I want to thank everybody that's involved in organizing it, to involve the community in rethinking what Roosevelt Island is going to be in the future. And Roosevelt Island is a very, very special place, as I'm sure you know. But if we are such a special place, we have to be a little bit more careful when we demolish. Once it's demolished, it's gone forever. We have needs on the island, and this building can be repurposed. Let's say I bet you with my professional eye, and without forensic analysis, I bet you that the structure, at least the structure, can be preserved, and we can turn this building into something useful for this community and for the island. So I urge you to start the demolition right now. I urge you, and I'm asking you in front of everybody, I'm asking you, what is the procedure that entitles that we have, that we can use to start the demolition right at this moment?
So I definitely agree with you that Roosevelt Island's a very special place. And even as I was walking to this meeting here tonight, I was in awe of all the architecture that I walked by, from like old single-family homes that I can imagine date back hundreds and hundreds of years to higher-rise buildings. So I definitely understand, especially because you're a professional, you're an architect, the impulse to want to do preservation. I very much understand that. What I will say is that when the Department of Buildings, which does have engineers and specialists who determine if something is an immediate hazard, do determine that, our biggest thing is making sure that no one gets injured or killed. That really is the number one priority. And we care a lot about historic preservation, we care a lot about repurposing, but the number one thing is that the engineers who are professionals who determine that at the Department of Buildings have...
This is not what I'm telling you, I'm sorry to interrupt you. But what I'm telling you is that this is not a forensic structural report.
So
We do not know, we just want the facts. It may be true, they may be sold something that really, that requires absolutely demolishing the whole building so we can build a tower, residential tower there immediately after that. But right at this moment, I don't see the facts. And if we can stop repeating, the phrase immediate danger, I would be really grateful.
So I can look into, see if I can get access to something that has more details about how it was determined.
Wait, so you spent taxpayers' money in developing a complex logistics how to demolish the building, and you don't know the facts about the structural stability of the building?
So I will say I'm not an engineer, and I haven't been involved on that side of it, which isn't to say there aren't many people who could speak to that better. I'd say I'm ill-equipped to talk about the structural needs of the steam plant. That doesn't mean there aren't many people I work with who are experts on that. I think I'm just not the right person to speak to that tonight. I can look to see if I can get access to what my colleagues have worked on in the past to see if there are more details I could get to you. But I personally am not able to speak to that in a way, so I don't want to get into details about...
So let's then not also at the same time, repeat the phrase emergency, but there's no emergency. There is one sheet of paper, and on the other side, there is a huge building. It's the most unsustainable thing to do to a building, to demolish it completely. A building that can be repurposed. It has embodied carbon in it. It has taxpayers' money embodied in it, our money. And if if it can be repurposed, it's the most anti-sustainability thing to go and demolish it without even commissioning a proper report. So I'm asking you, what is the mechanism to file right now a complaint with HPD to stop the demolition? Is there such a mechanism, and what are our options?
So I'd say that the demolition does have to happen, and I understand it doesn't feel like an emergency, but if something is immediately threatening the public and their safety, it is an emergency to us, and we do.
There is nothing threatening except the smokestacks. The smokestacks, as we know, are unstable. That building was designed by Starrett Van Vleck. They designed Bloomingdale's. I don't see Bloomingdale's, which is older, falling apart. That's who the architect of that building was. There's nothing, the stonework on that building, the brickwork, I'm sure is fine and stable. The thing is that the smokestacks, which haven't been used, are deteriorating desperately. That we understand. But just to go and rampage through the building, take it apart, with the subway underneath it, with all these complexities, and, you know, and what are we gonna use it for? I mean, this building could have been another, Tate Modern.
Exactly.
You know what Tate Modern is?
I've been, it's wonderful.
Right,
And
Tate Modern is a power plant that's much bigger than this, on the South Bank of London, that was repurposed. And not just, and there were people here who wanted to do it, and the building was owned by Health and Hospitals, and my other question is, do you have any responsibility to demolish the steam tunnel?
do we have authority to demolish the structure
The steam tunnels that lead out of that building?
underneath? So we're sealing off at the property line to make sure that there aren't, negative impacts.
Well, that leaves us,
Yeah, there are, so.
it leaves us with a mile-long steam tunnel that's unstable, that's now completely abandoned by the city, and at some point, the seawalls are gonna collapse, and everyone's walked away from it.
It runs the length of the east promenade on the Queens side, from the steam plant up to the Kohler Hospital, and used to deliver the steam pipes through this tunnel. And the tunnel has been supposedly reported as at risk of collapse by engineers, I think 10 years ago.
No, a few years ago.
A few years ago. And it also was a source of flooding inundation that flooded out the Kohler Hospital drastically during Hurricane Sandy. So that's also a safety risk. It's probably a more significant safety risk than the immediate demolition of the building, other than the steam stacks.
Can I
So-
go back to my original question? What can we do? I presume you're here to represent HPD, which is our agency, because it serves us. So I'm asking you, as a citizen, what can we do to stop this procedure until we look at a real, forensic structural report and a real feasibility study, how this building can be repurposed?
I think as she stated earlier, she's not prepared for this, but I think what we can do is ask her to find out for us, so that we would know what to do. She can go back, are you able to go back and answer her,
Provided point of contact with, DOB.
to have a contact for her?
So what I can do is I can get more information about how we got to the determination that that this emergency declaration was needed. So if I can go in, see what other documentation there is that got us to here. I got looped in on the HPD side because we're in charge of doing demolition for the whole city, and I will say, we wouldn't do this if we didn't have to.
Somebody
But-
asked you, I get it, somebody
Yeah.
asked you. But I'm asking for your help, to help us understand how we can put this on hold until the community understands better what the real situation, this is a real question. What is the feasibility study that proves this building cannot be used? And these are very pragmatic, practical questions that maybe somebody somewhere answers, but this is not the answer. I'm sorry.
I think you should go back with these questions, because I understand you're here to, answer questions, related to the actual,
Demolition, yeah.
the demolition, and this is not her forte. But she can provide a number or department, somewhere.
I can get additional information that you're requesting, so I can do that.
Okay, so we're gonna let her do her presentation. She's gonna have to stick to the area that she was sent here for. Now, anything else we come up with, then we can also ask them to come and speak with us. And I think that would be the best, alternative for us.
Yeah, I think we need to speak to it.
Yes, with that, I think that would have to be it. We have,
We have
she's
to make
unable
it
to
happen.
do this.
Okay, I'm assuming that this
Yeah,
is
a couple of
going to
things
be,
that these islands need dearly is extension of the school, new marketplace. We need, professional offices on the island. We need so many things that can be housed in this building.
Okay, and you feel that, it was so sudden, it came up so sudden
Exactly.
because Judy mentioned that also. While
maybe
we're here, I
not,
want to mention, we have another committee, Operations Committee member, Lydia Chang has joined the meeting.
okay, so my question is, I'm assuming that you're going to be, or somebody is going to give this presentation to the board in 2 days. Is that true, or no?
To
No,
the,
we have only, asked them to come for the operations committee
Oh, okay.
tonight, but as part of this ongoing dialogue, we'll work with HPD so that they
Okay.
can.
All right, so if this
Keep
is,
you updated, but this is the reason for
yeah,
their appearance tonight, yeah.
okay, so if this isn't going to be presented to the board for a vote or anything like that,
No.
No.
then, yeah, then we do have time, presumably, to get the information, because we want to make sure that the foundations for this decision are firm and solid. We don't want to rubber stamp anything just because somebody said.
Operations Committee member, Melissa Wade.
Thank you. My question is with regard to the timeline. Is it on time, right? Because this is the first time I've seen this, and I see that we're already in week 3. Is it on time? Have the things on this plan happened?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So,
The site protection work is underway.
so it looks like the fence perimeter should be in, sidewalk sheds should be,
Yeah, this work is still ongoing.
vibration monitoring has started.
I can double check with the contractor, but I think the sense was that it would, be beginning this week.
Okay. Because it says November 28th is
Yeah.
what it shows.
Yeah, through this week.
And then rear yard oil tank remover backfill, has that started?
So my sense is that all of this is up to date.
Okay,
That all this is up to date. I can double check with our contractor if they fell behind on anything, but my sense is that everything that's listed here is up to date as of now.
okay. And then, just for my clarification, because I'm not exactly sure, building means and methods drawings, what does that mean exactly?
So I think that refers to what I handed out, where we have the case that you want to see.
With the
Yeah,
font?
sorry about that.
I mean, like, I literally, if we are talking about this,
I can send a digital copy that
That would
maybe is
be-
a little bit easier
That
for
would be
folks.
helpful.
Um,
But just to clarify, nothing on this 8-week look-ahead schedule that you handed us is anything coming down. There's no demolition
No.
on here.
No.
Okay.
Right, so this is really marshaling resources in place, and the only actual work being done is to remove the external west, oil tank, rear oil tank, which
Yeah.
is outside of the building, property.
But there's no large, like, anything knocking over the steam plant at this point. This, like we said, we're doing this carefully, safely, with an experienced contractor who doesn't want to rush anything. We want to get it right. So we're really focused on site protection and putting what we need to in place to make the demolition a success.
Thank you.
Can you share the demolition means going with the public? Not this one. Demolition means of operation, how they're, the actual stages of the demolition.
So right now, our contractor statewide is still working with DOB to finalize those plans, and part of that has to do with the surveying that they're still doing. So that hasn't been finalized, but we can work once that does get finalized to share that with all of you and with the public.
And also the environmental protection plan, with all the findings, and,
Judy?
rear yard
removal backfill. Has anyone tested the soil back there before you go and do it?
So,
Everything, it has to be tested, it has to be shown that this is all polluted ground as far as I know. There are oil tanks there since 1939. It has to be shown how polluted it is. You just don't pollute it in the truck or and just cart it away. What environmental protection are you getting here?
I would say our contractor is very experienced when it comes to environmental remediation. Everything from soil to asbestos, so that's something that definitely they are doing, and that HPD is monitoring to make sure that
We
all
can't
the
tell.
proper.
We can't tell what's going on. There's a nice green fence. The DOB standards of green, and there's no one can tell what's going on back there. You can be just hauling stuff out, doing things that are proper, improper, because the soil testing should be public. If you're gonna see, it has to be polluted back there, it has to be polluted. It can't be not polluted. There's also pollution across the way the oil pipes led under the building, under the street to the pier. There's a whole retinue of pipes that lead under the street. All of this is pollution, and all this is old pollution, but we have to know about it. You can't just say, our contractor knows. We're skeptical New Yorkers.
And I definitely empathize with that.
I think, you need to show us, basically,
Show us
is what
the facts.
Judy is saying. We
Take
need,
us on a site tour.
the
show us-
contractor needs to at least bring in proof, show us, tell us.
You can have people from the REAC staff go on site inspections. We trust you, Mary. And we want to know what's going on. You're tearing down a building that's not should be torn down, that aside from the front specs, probably is in decent shape. And I know it's a city tactic when they want to get rid of a building. Health and Hospitals was more than glad to turn it over to HPD. They got it out of their thing, and now it's your job to declare an emergency and get rid of it. But in the meantime, no one is taking care of the steam tunnel, which is another disaster waiting to happen. So, I'm sorry, you have a lot of things on your plate now to look into for us, and we have to work with you because it has to be cohesive. This is not cohesive.
And I'm here because we really want to work with
We need
you,
you on
and
the-
I want to hear these requests,
Yeah.
and I will be looking into them. Everything from looking more into how we reach the emergency declaration and what studies went into that, to looking at the soil testing and what types of requirements there are in terms of reporting.
Yeah, if we could get some, like, just even plain language analysis, that would be helpful, because none of us are engineers, so, thank you.
I can translate if we get the document.
But I need to be able to understand, thank you, yeah.
Yeah, I am very concerned about the steam tunnels, because we've had that, knowledge that it's potentially dangerous to anybody walking on the promenade, not today, but in the not too distant future, we could actually have a collapse, and we could have people walking on the promenade, and
Especially with the demolition.
We probably need a report.
When was the last
Structural
engineering study done?
to be.
Well, that was supposed to be something that
It was a couple of years ago.
It was in 2024 where Langen took another look.
Okay, and
yeah, I would actually like to see that dealt with sooner rather than later, in terms of the steam tunnels before the steam plant, but that's
the
my,
steam tunnels were,
was that discussed at all?
what was
With
discussed.
the steam tunnels and with the demolition? Because we brought that up before.
It's not part of the, from what I understand, it's separate from DOB's emergency demolition order.
But it's something we should discuss.
But it is something, as REAC, we care about, and the city
Yeah, I
knows
think
that we care about trying to figure out a solution to pay for and remediate that.
yeah, my perception is that's more of an emergency than the plant. That's my perception.
Okay, I am not prepared to speak on the steam tunnel tonight, so I'm not gonna say anything, because it wouldn't be correct, because
Yeah.
that's not something I know about.
Okay.
Thank you.
If these steam stacks were taken down, you could protect for safety by isolating and corking off the space of the building.
I was thinking about that.
Whereas people walking on the promenade, families and others, plus the flooding problem in a major storm is a major risk to safety and health of the island.
It sounds like we could have a follow-up conversation with RIAC about the steam tunnel to talk about what the conditions are and what the next steps are.
What's the budget for state, what's statewide budget
$7.3 million.
for the entire,
Yeah.
and if they do barging, are they gonna bill you more?
No, the cost is
When they
seven
do
point,
barging, not the if, when they do barging.
the $7.3 million was what they came in at. And that was with the understanding that as part of their proposal, they were going to look into barging. So there is no separate cost for anything. It's $7.3 million, and they're doing a full investigation on the feasibility of barging.
Yeah, as, being on the board of REVOC, we do know that even with the, barging that happened down at Old Water when that was demolished, we still had to repair roads. We still had to repair, we just have to repair roads. So if anything goes on, it's gonna come out of our pocket to repair the roads.
Which is problematic.
Yeah.
So if you could add road repair, please.
You're demolishing a building, there's a subway tunnel under it. How are you protecting that tunnel when no one goes into it or demolishes? It gets into the subway tunnel that's under the building. Are there engineering reports of the Transit Authority and all of them? Are they in on this? Are there reports from the TA, how they're gonna literally excavate above their tunnel, which is from 1918? It's an old tunnel. You know, I was looking at the old pictures yesterday. I'm dangerous. So that's another part. You have to show us that you have reports from the Transit Authority that it is safe to move items above this tunnel. And all the electrical lines and all your connection with the Queensboro Bridge. I mean, there should be reports from all of these agencies to show us that you know what you're doing, that statewide knows what they're doing. You know, someone drilled into the Queens Midtown Tunnel doing a boring. You know, we don't want the NMER train not to run because someone drilled in the tunnel. It's serious. I mean, this is a lot of serious things that I don't think anyone is really, if they thought of it, they just pushed it off. Oh, it's a city job, we'll get it done quick. It took years to demolish Goldwater carefully and perfectly. And if you have to take this building down, it has to be done so nothing is being destroyed or damaged in route.
I completely agree with you, and on that point, our initial estimate was 6 months, and it's been already significantly lengthened to 9 to 12 months because of the complexity of the project, and that we, HPD, we the city, do not want to pressure our contractor at all to move too quickly and do anything incorrectly. And that we and statewide are working closely with the Department of Buildings, with the Department of Transportation, with all these different agencies that are also in charge of protecting New Yorkers and protecting our infrastructure to
Maybe
make
they
sure.
should come to the next meeting with us.
We could,
I
can,
really think this is protection of the Queensboro Bridge, the tunnel. These people should be here showing us what they're doing to protect the city of New York against some demolition on Roosevelt Island that could damage so many vital aspects of our community and your city.
Demolition permit hasn't been pulled out yet. So what are some of the objections that you get on the demolition?
so there haven't been objections yet. The work between our contractor and DOB is still underway. So nothing's being held up because of any objections.
So, but the permit is not pulled out yet, right? You don't have a permit based on the system as of yet.
I would need to check up on the specifics of all the different permits, but my understanding is that right now we have this emergency declaration, which is from DOB, and the contractor is working directly with DOB on what the plans are for the specifics of the demolition and what each stage is gonna look like.
Yesterday I could only see in the system the site protection permit.
Yeah, that sounds correct.
And the demolition drawings are filed with DOB, correct? Is that the correct statement?
Could you say that again?
The actual demolition drawings are filed with the Department of Buildings?
I know that they're still coordinating with DOB on the specifics of the demolition. And so what you saw sounds correct to me, that right now the site protection permits have been filed, but that the rest of it is still being worked out, especially as the engineering report is still underway.
I think the, community feels as if it's been, I guess you might compare this to the state's, a condemnation, you know, when land is taken, they just suddenly decide they wanna do something, and they just condemn, then they declare condemnation, and really, there was little to do except fight it. I mean, if you really wanna fight it, but once to me, this is what I see, that is, I see the relationship basically the same, because, once, a site is condemned, and they do what they wanna do. And I see the relationship that way, and I think this is basically what the residents are feeling. So I think we should, we're really asking for proof, protection, what has been done. Consult your consultants, your specialists, what have they done? Who have they consulted with? And Judy has brought up very many important items I feel that should be looked into from the residents. And as Lydia mentioned, we think the tunnel is very serious too, and no one has condemned that, or no one has said it's very urgent. Maybe they should look into that also.
So this is all information that I can and will bring back to my colleagues, that I think talking about the tunnels with folks, and then also I hear out you all and your need to get the proof of why this needs to come down and better understand the conditions that led to this. Because I understand that just saying, you know, it's a hazard, look at this piece of paper, I understand you'd be skeptical, you're a professional, and so I think what I definitely can do is come back and see what other information I'm able to share with all of you that can show what the conditions are and how the city came to the conclusion that the plant does need to come down.
If anyone showed this to me and said, I'm tearing your building down, I would be hysterical laughing. This is nothing. There's no legal document to this. Two people signed it, I don't even, this is nothing. This is not showing reason, an engineering report, as she said, reason to demolish a building. You just don't pull down a building on this. Yeah, I'm sorry, it's not kosher, no.
Could you include in your report what or who initiated DOB to look into this site and declare it an emergency? I'd be interested to know what prompted them, or who prompted them to examine it in the first place.
Okay.
Can you add to your list a couple of specific things? Structural forensic report with numbers and test lab approved, that sealed and signed by professional engineers. That proves that the building is unstable. This is the only proof. Sealed and signed engineering report with probes taken by independent agency from the site. Has that been done? And the second thing that's I think is of interest to this community, is to see the feasibility study that proves that there is no way that this building is repurposed. There's no meaningful, financially viable way that this building is repurposed for the benefit of the taxpayer. We don't have to reinvent the wheel here. You know, there's a process, it's called feasibility study, where people calculate numbers, and if it's not feasible to keep it, it's not, right? But we haven't seen a study.
Okay, I just noted both of those down, so I'm able to look into that.
I think the community feels left out.
Environmental reports, to know what's in them, asbestos, lead, leakage from the tank, what's in that building?
Community. I think that's basically, we skipped over the community input. the community input has been, skipped over or neglected.
But what I will say is HPD does put a very strong emphasis on community engagement when we can. When we're re-envisioning an already vacant space and we want to determine what the community wants to see there, what types of housing, what types of community services. In this case, unfortunately, because there is an immediate hazard if this isn't brought down, our first priority is safety, which is why we haven't been out in the community asking, because at the end of the day, our obligation as the city is to make sure that nobody is harmed. So I understand that folks might not be happy about the demolition, and we're happy to work with the community, and we definitely see it as our obligation to work with the community, because that's what we do, to understand how to mitigate the impacts of the demolition. But to be clear, the demolition does need to happen, and I will get all relevant reports out to folks. But the community engagement is going to come with what we're doing to mitigate impacts in terms of traffic, in terms of noise, and times of day of the demolition. But like I said, it does need to happen, and our first priority is safety.
Okay, I think we should bring this to a conclusion.
I just want to add one thing. So, given the timeline of when this demolition is going to happen, we are looking at the roadways project and seeing what impacts that this may have on the timeline of that project.
Okay.
So we should probably delay that until it's done,
Yes.
because we'll just do the roadways project and then they'll truck us and then destroy the roadways project, which would be terrible.
Yeah, we'll just have the
And we
repaving
just
done
do
in
it
front of
again.
my building.
Then we have to do it again.
Also, I think as part of our terms, there's a performance bond, where the contractor, HPD, would be responsible for like any damages or repairs. I remember seeing that, so.
So, yeah, damages or repairs, I would have to look specifically about the obligations as they come to the roads. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't want to speak to that and say either way.
Well, I want to thank you so much for devoting so much of time. As you can see, Roosevelt Islanders are very concerned, and we really do care about the island. And some of us would love for the building to remain. And if it cannot remain, I think proof should be shown why it must be demolished. And then what can we do?
Understood?
Do you have cards?
I do. There are in my bag in the other room. I can go grab them.
Well, Mary, you can give it to Mary, and,
Yeah, Mary has my
Yeah,
contact
yeah.
information. We're in frequent
Yeah.
contact.
I would think so.
Can we also get your contact information?
So what we're
Or we
doing,
have to communicate to them.
I'll send you, we're setting up an email address that folks can send inquiries to about the demolition. So, we're working on getting that set up. It should be by later this week, and I can send that over to Mary so that folks can all have that.
Hold on a second. How do you spell your name? We're very good, we can pencil, how do you say?
Yeah, of course, my first name is Rachel,
That I can do.
Rachel.
And your last name?
My last name is Swack, S as in Sam, WACK.
And your email?
It's Swack, Swack, R,
Faye, I don't know if there's anybody online that wants to speak.
at HCD.
You're welcome, you're right. Thank you.
I see a hand up, yeah.
Sorry.
What contact, what's the email?
Okay.
Slash
Okay, I told her.
or at hpd.nyc.gov.
Rachel, we have someone on the line.
Yeah,
that
of
has
course.
questions. How do we work it?
Can she unmute herself or no?
How do we work it?
Is me?
Gina,
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, good, hi. Okay,
Hi.
cool. Got my time. I just put a little note in the chat, not knowing if I was going to be able to speak or not. My biggest concern, other than everything that people are talking about tonight, is the barging and our Main Street. I lived through my apartment, half of it facing the city. It's great, but bedroom is on Main Street. And for, I don't know how many years they were building Southtown. When you said, when you mentioned, you know, the trucks when no one's on the road. Well, that was just like a big light bulb went off because when's no one on the road? Like middle of the night, early morning. I still hear the trucks from Southtown being built, banging down Main Street, empty, you know, empty big dump trucks and all that. And we can't do it anymore. You know, we have to preserve. But Judy said last night, preserve Main Street, but also preserve our hours of sleep. So the barging is very, very important for peace in the community, for pollution. Now, Main Street it's an alleyway, right? It's a valley, it's a corridor. And there's a lot, you know, it's already called Asthma Alley for decades. And the increased pollution with trucks, the debris on the road, you know how many people got flat tires that we had to pay for tires because of the debris from all the trucks. And those are, you know, those are examples of what happens when there's no barging, right? And to have the trucks come down when there's no one on the road means when we're all sleeping, when the babies are sleeping or whatever, trying to watch TV at night. So as far as trucks going down Main Street, no, no. Barging, it should be the priority here. It's right there by the river. And Main Street's too small. We have kids, you know, younger kids here on this island. Our kids get freedom a little bit younger than you know, in the city. So kids in 575 or in Island House, they go over to Main Street Theater. They cross the street. They're taught to cross the street. But, you know, it's still having trucks, having people that don't know Main Street, don't know Roosevelt Island. They think stop signs are like yield, and they're not. They're not. So my biggest concern is the trucks down Main Street. We can't have that again. We can't. It's not good for anyone's health. It's a liability. And so that's what I want to really emphasize. It can't happen again. Even when they build a new building, if that happens, they build a new building in that space. They're going to truck all that stuff in? No way. No. Nope. And then I did have a question. Who declared this an emergency? Like what state authority, who declared it? Like who signed that? What department declared taking
New York
that
City
down?
Department of Buildings. I have the emergency declaration. I can do is send a digital
Okay.
copy over to
No.
Rhea.
I just missed that. I just missed that part. But that's what I wanted to add to this. The importance of barging and no early morning, late at night, because Main Street echoes. And that's all I have to say. That's all I have to say. The pollution, the debris, and the noise. Yep.
Okay, thank you, Gina.
Thank you.
Is that one other person? Is that Gina's?
Yeah, my hand is up as well. I'll take my hand down. Tried to get you every way I could here.
Okay.
I know that the, at one point, one of the construction projects initially, floated the idea of, trucking, and when you did the math, it was every 7 minutes, there would be a truck going up and down Main Street. And that's not good for our roadways at all, having these incredibly heavy trucks in the Joe Road. So that's why we as a community have been so adamant about wanting barging to preserve our urban space and also preserve our peace of mind, and as Gina was saying, our health.
It's too loud, guys. It's too loud on Main Street. It's too loud.
Absolutely, and it's not lost on us that these are people's front doors that we're going by, and that it's a community and people live here and it's very residential, that it's not like you're going down Broadway in Manhattan, that the makeup of Roosevelt Island is very different, which is why it was really important to us when we put out the bid to contract for, when we put out the RFP, that we really urged all respondents to include barging in their responses, because we heard the needs of the community and how small it is, how Main Street is the way in and out, and that if at all possible, that barging would be possible. So if at all possible, barging would happen. So, like I mentioned, statewide.
Why would it not be possible?
So I guess our contractor is working with an engineer who's looking at the seawalls, how far trucking would need to happen, what types of materials can be barged. So I think that is still underway, but they know that it's a top priority for the community and knew when they put in their bid that barging would be a part of this. So they're still looking at the feasibility, the engineers are still looking at the feasibility, but they understand it's a priority for this community and also for us, which is why we included that from the very beginning of the process.
As a resident, I remember being promised that when they built Southtown, that barging was going to really it was going to be barging,
Yeah.
not truck. But it never happened that way. There was a great deal of trucks, as everyone is telling you. A lot of roads ruined. It did not happen, and this is why you hear the concern, because we've been through it already.
Absolutely.
Repeat.
And I understand that it's different when you live somewhere versus if you just work somewhere. Maybe it's loud construction during the day versus if it's like your kids being kept up. I will say, due to the scale of the project, we have heard from our contractors, there's no way to do it all through barging. So there will be trucks on the roads regardless, and we're doing our best to time it so it's not middle of the night or it's not at a time that would be, difficult due to road closures. But unfortunately, due to a project of this size, trucking will at least be a part of it.
We don't know that yet, Rachel. We might not see much to do.
So
It's not inevitable.
my concern is if the contaminants are, I don't know whether or not this is true, you're saying whether or not these things will be allowed to be barged. If those things that are not allowed to be barged are going to be trucked down Main Street, there has been lots and lots of historical data about how the contaminants have impacted the health of children and life and limb. I know that in King of Prussia, when there were toxic waste dumps, and I'm not saying that this is, but it's close to a toxic waste dump, that trucks that were dumping toxic waste into a public park lake contaminated a generation of children who are still suffering from health issues. And many people have died of those health issues. So I don't want this to be another King of Prussia incident. Because King of Prussia, what they did was they buried the impact of the toxic waste that were impacting the health of all these school children, all these children that were swimming in pools that were contaminated, and for the benefit of having the King of Prussia Mall come in and being a large moneymaker for the community. But at the cost of lives, I don't want that to happen on Roosevelt Island. I don't want a child to die because the toxic waste that's been dribbling off the truck that's gone down Main Street, that some kid has walked into, that's gonna cause them cancer or cause cause them tuberculosis or cause them any kind of physical disease going forward that may or may not show up in the next 5 years, decade, or decades. I don't want that to happen. That is my priority. That I don't know whether or not you can actually address. Because that's happened historically.
I imagine the reports you'll have will have means and methods for transit of discovered waste.
Yeah, I can send over information about what it looks like to do remediation if there comes across any toxic waste, any concerns. I will say that the safety is a number one priority. Like I said, in terms of the whole reason why we're demolishing this is because we care most about the public not being harmed. And so we don't want the public to be harmed by a brick falling down and hurting someone, and we don't want the public to be harmed by having toxic waste go anywhere on this island. Our number one priority is to get this down as safely as possible. And I absolutely hear your concerns that I saw so many cute kids walking over here as I came to this meeting. And I also care very deeply about making sure that they're okay, that they're not poisoned in any way. And I totally understand your concerns that it's happened elsewhere, that there wasn't enough caution for the type of environmental remediation that had to happen after toxic materials were found. And I'll say the city has very robust procedures to make sure that all of that is handled appropriately. And what I can do is go back and send over exactly what those procedures look like. I know HPD is already supervising this very closely, but obviously we have, sister agencies, the Department of Environmental Protection, we work very closely with on a lot of different projects, as well as our state counterparts, which I'm sure many of you are also familiar with. So I'm happy to get more information on that, and I absolutely hear and share your concerns there.
Okay, well, I want to thank you again, Rachel.
I think there might have been one more person on there.
There's one other chat. One more person. Is it
Hi.
Tibor?
Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Appreciate you giving me a moment to speak. It's been a very fascinating meeting. My name is Tibor Crisco. I'm a resident of Roosevelt Island. I live in Manhattan Park. I'll try to be brief, but again, I appreciate everyone's efforts here. This is certainly an important topic. I would largely echo the thoughtful concerns saying, let's make sure we're doing the best thing possible and bringing up points not for just contentiousness or opposition, but to get transparency information. So I appreciate those efforts and words there. Just a couple comments. Maybe there's a question here, which is simply to say, appreciate the comment on barging. Not to get lost in semantics, but I hope that as we're moving forward, it's not just that barging is an element, but is the maximally possible element. Obviously, there's many variables there, including cost, but still, to echo other people, let's make sure it's not just a token box that the contractor is checking, but it's really truly maximized. I'm not an expert in transportation. I would have thought that barging might be the way to handle when it comes to scale, the most amount of mass, more so than trucking. Maybe that's not correct. Maybe it's more about the complexity and technical aspects than scale of the project. Regardless, again, let's just make sure we're really pushing to maximize barging as much as possible. And again, not to get lost in semantics, but appreciate the focus on safety. That's, of course, critical in all different aspects, bricks in the short term, cancer in the long term, and everything in between. I'll just even echo that, contained within that concern of safety, let's just choose the best approach possible. To echo thoughts on, is there some salvageable, financially doable way that does not involve tearing it down? Again, these are all conversations that have been said, but I think if we focus on what is truly best for the community, that will more than encompass the concerns of safety, which are, of course, critical. I think those are the main things, but again, I appreciate these efforts and thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
And I think you put it really well by saying we want to do the best approach possible. And I think that's what the community is committed to. I think that's what REOC is committed to, and that's what HPD and the city is really committed to. So thank you for your comment.
What is that external?
Can we click the chat button and just make sure that there's not, maybe someone wrote
The-
comments?
No,
The mouse.
well, that's the REAC number.
No, the chat. There we go.
Let's see what it says.
Over here,
Tibor.
They're asking for reports. We've already covered the report.
Gina, Tibor, yeah.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Don't think we need to spell those. Okay, we're gonna, thank you again. I guess you say, this is the last time we thank you. And we are looking forward to having some of
I'll let you keep that. No, but truly, thank you all for having me. It's my pleasure to be here tonight. I always love coming to Roosevelt Island. Hopefully next time I'll do it under better weather. And I'll
raining
next
now.
next time, oh, that's good. Next time it'll be during the day, so I can better, but I do think Roosevelt Island's a really special place, and I'm glad that I get to work with all of you, and I really do appreciate all of your concerns, that it's great working with a community that's so dedicated and cares so much, and we look forward to continuing to work with you throughout this process.
Just bring us the experts next time. Bring us the experts. Bring us
Just,
the
should I leave these here? I'll leave these here for folks,
Yes.
in case you want any more. I'll bring them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. We're gonna move on to item number 2 on the agenda. I did.
Can I get an agenda?
It's the update on current projects, so let's discuss Eleanor's here.
Yeah, there's slide the, yeah, slide it over. Thank you. No.
Just in case. Just in case.
Sure, okay. There we go. Okay, so, put together a slide deck to talk about, two of the main topics that we have, that will be coming to the board for approval on Thursday. So the first of these is Eleanor's Pier. So I'm going to start with a recap of kind of the history of the pier and how we got to present day, and then the next steps with repairing it and getting it back open to the community. So constructed sometime in the 90s was the West Pier. Prior to that, it was a pier that I believe did service boats coming to the island. However, the West Pier was came to be around that time. In August 2013, following the events of Hurricane Sandy, there were several repairs needed to address the issues with the pier. Those included replacement of some splintered timber decking, the ramp access needed to be addressed, as well as the painting of the existing guardrails. In February 2023, there was a railing collapse, and a new railing matrix was fabricated using galvanized steel material, which is the preferred material for marine environments, as well as a new wood topping on that railing itself. In April 2024, a second rail collapse, which really forged us to move forward with further evaluating the structural integrity of the railing, really the entire railing set. And if you remember, around that time, we brought to the board a board item to replace the railing of Eleanor's Pier with a marine resilient railing. And at that time, after the request of the board, to further investigate the structural integrity of the pier and make sure that we were addressing the problem holistically. So we took that feedback and went to work with Cameron Engineering, now IMEG, to perform a comprehensive study of the pier, its structural integrity. This included underwater dives, visual inspections, core samples, and came back with a full evaluation and recommendations. And I'll touch on a couple of those key points here. So the piles are what supports the pier, and there was observed to be some major pitting of the steel sections, some loss and rusting, as well as some holes and damage in several of the piles that are supporting. The decking was the second element that was flagged. There was observed rusted hardware. You could see some of the splintering from the deck. You can even see a repair that was made previously to try and shore up the decking, but they had, based on their analysis, really determined that a full replacement would be necessary. And then lastly, the railing, which was what we had identified early on, also came about in their study, identifying the damaged post of the railings that showed significant wear and rusting, compromising the structural base of that structure. Oh, there we go. So next step. So in August of this year, REAC released 3 separate RFPs for the repair of Eleanor's Pier. Now, these RFPs included the bid package that was prepared by IMEG that performed the structural study. So this is all based on the drawings that they derived from their study of the pier. So part of that includes the pile restoration, which was the pitting that we experienced, that we saw photos of just now, a full decking replacement, as well as addressing the iron railing. The repairs will be performed with materials intended for the marine environment and in preparation for potential future flooding events, because I'm sure that probably will happen in the future. So making sure we're prepared for the long-term structural integrity of the pier. The RFPs were divided by trade to really broaden the bid participation and promote more competitive pricing throughout the process. So following our RFP posting, 1 proposal was received for the piles and the wood framing work. For the iron work, 5 proposals were received. However, 1 was deemed incomplete and therefore disqualified, leaving 4 qualified bidders. Dockhand Services LLC ended up submitting for all 3 of the RFPs and was selected in each of those RFP categories. Right now, looking at the overall project timeline, will be dependent on the required permitting process that needs to go through the Army Corps of Engineers, as well as DEC, and those processes can take, anywhere from 2 to 5 months. Obviously, we'll do our best to try and make sure that those are done expeditiously. So that would be our next step, should this be approved at the board meeting. I do think it's important to note that Dockhand provided not only the lowest fee, but they also received the highest scores within the RFP process as related to their experience and qualifications and their ability to perform the required services. Their lead project manager, who will be working on the project, is a civil engineer, so that is helpful to know that we'll have that expertise on site and leading the project, of course, under the oversight of Alvaro and the capital planning department. Dockhand had previously completed 2 projects, one with Kearney, or in Kearney, New Jersey on the Passaic. They performed a bulkhead repair and dock repair for the municipality there. And they're also working on, or in the town of Port Chester, New York, where they are working to rehab their bulkhead system, railing, concrete decking, and ADA compliant transitions. So I believe based on the evaluators, they took a hard look at the projects that were relevant and spoke directly to the project here at Eleanor's Pier, as well as making sure that we did our due diligence in contacting references to understand what their performance was like outside of what was on paper, right? It's always important to make sure we're hearing it as much as we're seeing it. And those references came back positive, which was good. So I'm happy to go over any questions that anyone has around Eleanor's Pier, and Alvaro's here as well, should there be more technical items.
I have a question, and especially looking at the budget, we keep hearing about wood framing, we saw the pictures. I guess my question is, does wood make sense? Is there something that's more affordable, but also a more appropriate, resilient material that can or should be used?
It's a good question, and that was actually something we had touched on earlier. So the wood that was specified as part of the structural study by IMEG is that is intended for a marine environment. It's not simply the wood that was shown in the pictures that looks like something you could go to Home Depot and buy.
Yes.
This is more something that's, I'm not going to use the right terminology, but it has appropriately treated and intended to get wet over a long period of time.
Did we consider any other substrates, or did we just decide we were going to do wood because wood is what we had before?
Okay, so, in the drawings that were submitted by IMEC,
they gave us, options, okay? And within the options, this material that we're selecting now was the most, applicable one to what we want to meet, what we want, and also was not that expensive in comparison to the other options that we had. And this material, is proven to last a minimum of 15 years.
15.
Without, needing, treatment.
Okay.
Whereas other type of wood that is also, good in characteristics, you have got to maintain it yearly. Got to make sure that you maintain it, otherwise it will degrade over time. These you just need to clean, basically, and that is, why it's so good. And that's the reason why, if you look at the overall costing, the wood is where most of the weight of the pricing is. It's not so much on the labor to do it, it's on the material itself.
Thank you. You
Of course.
answered several of my questions in one go,
And
so
since
thank
you
you.
mentioned, I want to also say that in addition to having the wood, we also are addressing the hardware underneath, which is also needing to be of, the same material of the railings, which is a stainless steel 316L, which is a very special stainless steel grade.
Thank you.
So we have the best.
We are the best. They're contemplating the best option, yes. Given the budget that we consider is appropriate, there were some more expensive materials that look fancier, but it did not translate into, a benefit, on the long run.
I call that wear and tear.
Yeah.
So I have a question.
Yes.
I know that, the meditation steps, at one point, were you here when they replaced meditation steps twice?
No, I was not here, no.
Okay, so they replaced the meditation steps the first time, and they went with the cheaper option, and then Hurricane Sandy came, and it demolished it within years, and then they went with the more expensive option, so they had to replace the meditation steps twice.
Right.
Once with the cheaper option, and then a few years later with the more expensive option.
Mhm.
Is that what we're doing right now, going with the cheaper option?
No, we're not going with the cheaper option. We are going with the correct option.
Okay, so is that the option of the wood that we used the first time or the second time?
Neither.
Neither.
Because this material is a percent of synthetic, so it's treated for corrosion environments. It is not a 100% wood per se. And that's one of the things that I actually, looked into, is, with the understanding that wood, 100% wood, maple wood is great, is good, for when you have a railing in a conventional format, but not, above the sea or the water, that we, want to make sure that we do not undergo any of this,
So this is a manufactured wood.
This is a manufactured wood, yes.
Okay.
So it's synthetic blend?
It's synthetic, yes. It's not regular, wood.
Okay, and the other question I had was galvanized steel in the slide. Apparently, that's not the best.
Okay, no, but this slide that we demonstrated right now has steel, not galvanized. We made one of the elements galvanized when it failed 2 years ago. And we put in footings made out of galvanized. And that still is there. But because the other ones are degrading, and because this was conducted in a more professional way by the engineers, given the choices of galvanized and stainless, the stainless is far more superior than galvanized. Being that we are making the investment that you just mentioned, we opted to go with stainless steel in lieu of the galvanized.
So we have a sign off from a material science person?
Correct. That says that, and we have it, that's why we didn't do the RFP. We paid to get this done professionally, so that will be translated directly into the bidders. And in the bid documents, we were careful to not let them articulate the methodology of how they want to proceed with the work, but they had to reference the drawing number that that speaks to how they have to do it. So we were very careful in making sure that whoever is selected follows the guidance provided. And that's the reason why we also, from the beginning, split the trades. Because if you get a general contractor, the general contractor will mix and match to their convenience of time and actually to be profitable, right? Whereas if you separate by trade, the trade is responsible for that trade. The trick here is in the project management stage that we have to coordinate appropriately so that one overlaps the other without anyone pointing fingers because of you and delayed and that would be our job to do. Real is going to manage this.
All right, and then my third concern is I'm hearing a planned obsolescence of 15 years. Maybe I'm too demanding, but I would like it to last more than 15 years. Is that possible?
Well, 15 years is what they will stand behind strongly, right? Now, something that is 15 years can last much more if you provide the care that is required, and that's what we're going to have to do our homework. Even though we don't have to treat it like a regular wood, but there's got to be some maintenance we got to follow, and we have to make sure that we follow that to the line, so that if it fails in less than 15 years, that was something that we will have to demonstrate that we follow that, and it failed anyway, and they will cover 100%. And if after that it fails, okay, we have the fact that we maintain it properly, they're not going to cover, but then we will, over the years, I'm hoping that we will start getting spares progressively so that we can start doing our own replacement as things move along and we see that it needs replaced of individual planks after the 15 years. It's like any equipment. We have to have spare parts to keep our equipment going, the same thing over here. But the manufacturer will stand behind 15 years.
When was the end?
2013.
2013, so, okay.
And also, when this happened, originally, when the first renovation, when the first attempt to remediate this, they only sanded and painted the railings. They didn't replace anything. It was white before. I have pictures. So, of course, actually, this steel that is there lasted a very good time.
Because Sandy fully inundated the entire pier.
Right.
It's really underwater for 24 hours.
So this is just for the pier. There's a lot of, around the island, along the promenade, the same type of deterioration going on.
Yes.
So are we looking into that as well?
The next in line is the prow, the boat structure. That's the next in line. We are also taking the same approach of getting evaluated by the same company to come up with a recommended remediation plan for that.
And there's a lot of deterioration I've gone around on a lot of the promenade railings and on, the concrete as well as the steel, as well as the railing, everything. And,
Okay, that's another topic, yes. I'm aware. We actually did a survey ourselves in CPP of all the seawall railings. Now, the seawall railings, a lot of those, if you look at the base, it's corroded.
yeah.
And if you go down by the, down south, by the park. South Point Park, that happens with H. In South Point Park, if you go down there, you'll see where you have the city bikes. If you go over there, the railing is all the way corroded, everything is. And I asked, I said, wait a minute, you have a higher wall than you do at the ends, where you have the tide being high, reaches the railing more often than this. Why is this more deteriorated? It comes to the fact that when they did this, there were 2 batches made, and that batch that was made, it wasn't done 100% correct. It's the truth. That's how it was. So now, because these were this is not a 100% pure material, because this is just the steel and then treated and then coat it, right? If there's any imperfections, the moment you have a pore, for lack of a better term, it keeps growing like if you have a glass that is a little pointed, it keeps growing over time, so that's what happened here. So the solution to this is to remove that, take it out and do a sandblasting of the surface, and then, do a treatment. Now, the most obvious thing would be, okay, let's treat with galvanized material, right? And put it back, and then paint it. But there is another method that we investigated, which is called metallized. It's another way of protecting it that is more robust, but it still needs to be painted. Or the other option is change it to stainless steel. So going back to what you said about the meditation steps, we went with a cheaper option, and now we're paying the price, right? So we don't want to do that in Eleanor Spear. So we selected the correct material.
All right, so, that was my concern last year, or 2 years ago, was, the materials.
The material.
Materials and structure, that was my primary concern, because the materials and structure.
Now, beside the material, the workmanship is a separate warranty. You could have the best material and the people putting it together don't do a good job, and that they're responsible. So we are contracting with the contractor. They are gonna have to be responsible for 2 years to do to come back and do any required, repair as needed, for labor.
So also, part of the promenade to look at is this promenade along, or seawall along, where Kohler Hospital is. So a lot of deterioration there.
Are you talking about the same railing mechanism or different? Same railing?
On the west side, the seawall railing on the west side.
Yes, but throughout the island, I have a percentage of how many railings are bad throughout the island. And we have a count of exactly, the position where it is, and we took reference of the light bulbs. The light bulbs, each light bulb has a number. So we made matrices, and we made between this light bulb and this light bulb, this is how many are compromised. So we know exactly where to go. So our goal is to, just like we're doing the sidewalks, we're repairing as needed or progressively, we will do the same over here with the railings, the seawall railing.
Okay, thank you.
Melissa? So these things that you've noted that are fairly new, that are now failing, are those under any type of warranty? Is there anyone we can point to that, no, the railings. So the railings are pretty new.
Yeah, the seawall railing,
Well,
you mean, right?
Oh,
Is that what you mean?
yeah,
Okay.
because those are only a couple years old.
Yeah, 2007?
The ones that I said that if they were not done properly,
Yes.
okay. The company that did this is bankrupt.
Shocker.
It's out of business.
It's like the most New York thing ever.
The person who was responsible for this,
He passed away.
yeah, because actually that person was on a call, and they're just gone,
Yeah, makes sense.
unfortunately, yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay.
Oh, this matter will come up before our meeting in 2 days. It's in the sense of the committee that we would support, this proposal.
Okay, let's go to item D, the AVAC, the West Pipe replacement.
Was that a question?
Well, I was thinking about, I was thinking perhaps we would see if we were in favor of recommending this to the board.
Oh, okay. Would you like to recommend it to the board?
Is that a thing we usually do?
This.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, okay. So let's take a look to see, all in favor?
But with the idea that the board presentation may not be quite as detailed as this. So we use the committee meetings to work out matters to kind of move things from the board meeting a little more quickly.
But this would be.
So there would be a presentation,
Right.
but it might not be.
Right, because
to the-
people
to-
will
to
be
the-
attending that meeting that aren't attending this meeting.
Right,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
it would be focused on this particular matter, and we've had more time to explore it in committee than maybe would exist during the board meeting.
Okay.
All in favor of presenting this at the, next board meeting, which is Thursday?
Well, I mean,
It's on the
we should
agenda,
present it.
isn't it?
But
Well, not presented, but
But recommended.
to recommend it, yes.
oh, I would.
Okay.
I think, yeah, I think.
Raise your hand, then I can, count. There's
Right.
only 4 of us. So it's all of us.
It's
Okay.
yeah, no, I don't have
It's
concerns.
Right, right,
It's
so
just-
at the
so
board
weird,
meeting,
that's all I'm saying.
as part of the discussion, in support of Alvaro and Mary,
Uh-huh,
we might say, we took a sense of the committee
gotcha.
and we support
We
this measure.
recommend,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh,
I appreciate the work and the information. It
Yeah, the
seems
support.
Yeah.
solid.
I do want to just make a note on the contingency, because that is a higher percentage contingency than we typically will allow for projects. Usually we're around the 10 to 15%, but for this project, you know, after talking it through with Drew and the team, the feeling was that we wanted to have a higher percentage of contingency to allow for any unforeseen condition, especially in a marine environment, just so we had that in there. So that's a cost driver of the total cost, about $226,000. So we're not planning to spend it, but we wanted to build that into the contract, just in case we ran into anything.
Because
So just wanted to
in the
make it.
fabrication and gathering materials, you get them going, but you also have to worry about the water work. The work in the river, you have windows of time where it's permissible, when it's not
Yeah,
permissible.
I totally understand, yeah.
Yeah, my recommendation was to increase the contingency, because you have multiple trades here.
Exactly.
And, we just don't know, what is going to, you know, what kind of expenses we're going to incur as they take on this project.
Right.
And, as Dock Handlers obviously, awarded the contract, but, their balance sheet, their assets are a little bit low. And so they're probably gonna have to subcontract or sublease some
Sure.
of this work. So there's gonna be some kind of cost associated there as well.
And like with any of our projects, we have, you know, Alvaro and the team will stay on top of the work that's going on and, you know, be vetting any potential changes.
And just to add to the financial aspect, we also have a detailed, percent of completion for payment. We will not wait until the end, because that discourages the vendor, one. Two, we don't want to wait until the end to start, bringing, looking at compliance, because, hey, we're not done yet.
Right.
It's okay, we're not done yet. You come to the term close of the project, now you're done, and then you did not allow me to address these months of concern I've been telling you, because you were not done yet. That's why we were doing it by stages and percent of completion for each trade. Mhm.
So the next item tonight is the AVAC West Main Pipe Replacement. So as we all know, the AVAC system services all of the residential buildings on the island. It's a big element of sustainability for the island's waste management system. And there's 2 main tubes or pipes that are collecting all of the waste from each side of the island. That's split into east and west. So last year, if you recall, we did a replacement of the transfer pipes that were within the plant of the AVAC system that were responsible for receiving the waste and then putting it through cylinders of separating and then eventually going into its containers. So this work that we're looking to do next year is focusing on the west main pipe. And this pipe is responsible for pulling all of the waste on the west side. That's tied into all of the chutes on the west side residential buildings. This particular pipe was flagged by NVAC. So NVAC is not only the firm that installed the system originally, but they're also our O&M contractor. So they perform all the maintenance related to the system. And really it's important, given the age of the AVAC plant, as well as the complexity of it, that NVAC is the one to be performing this very specific type of work. So the pipe was flagged by NVAC during their last visit. This particular area of pipe, I believe, has 2 bends in it, 90-degree elbow bends, is roughly 75 linear feet in length. And after years and years of them coming and maintaining this pipe by putting or welding patches to maintain its integrity, they alerted us that the wall thickness had degraded to a point where it is in need of replacement to maintain the continuity of the system. The approximate location of the pipe is located within that orange box. It's right on Main Street, next to Manhattan Park, across from the AVAC plant. And really a lot of the reason to why this pipe tends to deteriorate more than other parts of the pipe on the island is due to those turns in the pipe. So wherever there's a turn in the pipe, when you have waste traveling at such a high velocity all the time, and sometimes not with the materials that are supposed to be in the pipe, that constant hitting of the material on that curvature will cause that part of the pipe to degrade faster. Second slide here. So given the single source nature of the work of the plant system, and really wanting to make sure that we're maintaining continuity of materials and the workforce team that's installing it, we reached out to NVAC to gain a proposal for that pipe replacement. The total cost to replace the West Main pipe is $360,371. The work is anticipated to begin in the spring, most likely April. The reason for that is in order to get the materials here, they're sourced from Europe because it's a very particular material of pipe. It's a particular thickness that it needs to be, and you know, I won't get too into the weeds because I know Alvaro can talk about this all night. But the pipe has to be so specific to not disrupt the rest of the system, and that is really the driver as to why, you know, NVAC is being leaned on to do this work. Of course, we will coordinate with not only Manhattan Park, since that's right outside of their building, but also with all of the property managers that are going to be impacted by this work. We will send out notices to the community, informing everyone of, you know, when this work is going to begin once we have the schedule and the plan in place. And we're happy to answer any questions that.
Are they will they reinforce those, the bends?
No, they're gonna be replaced.
No. I meant the replaced ones, will they be reinforced?
Yeah, so the material of this, because it's closer to the plant, and like Mary said, it takes more of the wear because it's closer there, has a special alloys that will last longer the impact. So the replacement of these elbows and the pipe will keep the same life expectancy as originally intended from when this was installed. It's the exact same material. And we want to also do with the same materials because otherwise, if you mix 2 different alloys, you could promote corrosion there. Yes? So that's being accounted for very carefully. That number that you see there includes the materials and includes the projected time. So this number could be lower. Okay? Now, we will, this company is very professional, very, I would say very honest. They have a number of hours they can be inside the pipe working. I think it's maximum of 4 hours per person because it's confined area. So per day, they cannot work more than 6 or 8 hours. So it's projected to take up to a week because they're going to be doing 2 different shifts to get this done, if not a week sooner.
Thank you.
Sure.
Have we considered working with the buildings to modify this chute opening, since this is just an ongoing problem of people putting materials that are too big or the wrong shape? I mean, it feels like Because I know like in my building, the chute's it's actually quite big.
Mm.
And I know some of the older buildings, they're smaller, but they're clearly, that's something we might want to consider.
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, I think that's something we can.
So the pipe network is 20 inches in diameter. And that is connected to a plate in the buildings. And that plate has an isolation valve that we control. And from that point up is the building's responsibility. So to be correct, they should have a 20-inch line also. Because if you taper that or you bring that longer, you could have problems in the movement of the garbage. It has to be linear,
Yeah,
at least in the mechanical room.
yeah.
It cannot be like a funnel, or it cannot be,
Right.
it won't pass,
Yeah.
it has to be linear.
I'm talking about when I open this thing.
Oh, the
that-
door of the chute itself.
Exactly.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that's built, that, they could do something about it. But the buildings, with all due respect, they don't want to invest.
Well, I can
And-
appreciate
and-
that,
and
but.
we are paying for everything, absolutely everything, and they are
If
responsible.
they're causing the problem, and by
Yes.
they, I mean
The people.
our
Yeah, the
residents.
people, yes, the
And,
users.
you know, we're not,
Yeah.
the buildings, I would say, aren't doing a good enough public information campaign. Maybe something more physically limiting is to be considered. I just,
Yeah, I think that's an idea we can
Yeah.
talk about with property managers.
I'm sure they
Yeah,
would love
one
that,
of
but
the-
at the same time.
One of the
We can't
representatives.
go on like this.
Brian Weiss, or
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
Manhattan Park.
From
is
Manhattan
here.
Park, and we had a big discussion concerning it, and he's gonna look into.
One of the
Yeah.
things they try to do is close the chutes when they're move-outs.
Yeah, and I don't love that, because then you're penalizing the neighbors who aren't
But
moving
it's
out.
that's also
Yeah.
been when they've experienced.
Totally
those
understand
problems.
that, yeah.
That's when they throw
Yeah.
all kinds of things down.
Yes, and there are
But
also
I
other things that they could
suggested-
do.
That they put in bins for them.
Absolutely.
You know, so
Yeah.
he took it into, at least he looked as if he took
Yeah.
it into consideration, yeah. So I think, that's what we have to do, is talk to the building owners a lot and tell them it's their job to make sure. Because we're trying to do the best we can for the island, but they gotta help us too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Enforce it, yeah. Also that. Yeah. That
So,
was my question.
any other questions?
I suggest we also take a sense of the committee on this issue.
So, okay, let's just, how about presenting the ADAC? We would like to present this also at our next meeting.
No, it's presented it's scheduled for the board meeting.
Goodness,
So-
I just forgot.
Right,
But
so-
Whether we recommend.
Yes.
Yes, recommend, well,
Bigger board.
does everyone agree that we should recommend this to, at the next meeting?
I think so.
I think so too.
Okay.
We have a sole provider, we
Okay.
have to go with the sole provider.
No, we all love the APAC.
Yeah, we like the ADAC, we
I
want it
like
to
it.
go on forever and ever and ever.
Item number 3, winter preparedness.
Yeah. So I thought it'd be helpful to provide a visual that outlines our priority areas when it comes to snow removal. So the yellow area indicates the priority 1 spaces, and those are the helix, the main roadway, bus stops, crosswalks, it's effectively Main Street throughout the island. And then priority area 2 would be the blue area that indicates parks, kind of the pathways, esplanade areas. Now, in many of these scenarios, we're able to kind of tackle all of that relatively quickly. A really tremendous effort by our grounds team and Assistant Director Tom Imparati to make sure that these are all addressed in a timely fashion. However, if we did get a substantial amount of snow, that we would focus really on the priority 1 areas to maintain traffic flow, to make sure that those areas are safe for egress and for vehicles to get up and down the island, especially the helix, that is our only vehicle access point. And then we would address the blue areas next around there. We also do get support from DSNY. Sanitation does come onto the island to plow and spread salt along the Main Street areas. Sometimes they are delayed if they run into challenges themselves throughout their normal route. So typically our grounds team are the first people, the boots on the ground. But we are, of course, very grateful for DSNY when they come to the island and they support us in that fashion. We, just to kind of make some other notes, as far as salt storage, for the salt that we use on our roadways, we have 15 tons on site. We also store extra salt off-site at one of our OGS preferred vendors, where if we need to contact them, should we start running low, they will come and drop off salt onto our site. For sidewalks, we have 12 tons on site, and our winter readiness and reliability checks, we've gone through a cycle of that already. We're actually doing another cycle now just to make sure that everything is still in good condition. We have our salt spreaders ready to go. We're making sure that we're ordering parts for inventory. I think we noticed that one salt spreader needed a little bit more attention, so we're focusing on that. But we are ready to go as far as the plows and the salt to address the island and make sure that it's in good condition should we have a snow event. And lastly, I just want to mention for snow events in certain scenarios where we anticipate a heavy amount of snow, so I would say rule of thumb would be 5 inches plus. In some instances, that will require us to clear Main Street and ask vehicles to park on the 8th floor of Motorgate, and we'll coordinate that so that everyone can get their vehicles up there. And that really is for safety purposes, so that the both DSNY and our grounds team can get through Main Street and push the snow into mounds, so that they're not running into cars along the way or blocking cars in, which would cause traffic issues after the snowstorm. So that would be something that we would do. Knock on wood, we have not had to do that in the past couple of years, but you never know, the situations do arise. So we would send out communication to the community, and of course PSD and Chief Brown are very important in those scenarios to help facilitate all of those things. And I do just want to note that I know we had some rain today, and I think we're going to get some more freezing temperatures overnight into tomorrow. So our grounds team is going to be here. They already put out some preemptive salt in bus stop areas, crosswalks, and along Main Street. However, they'll be back in the morning, and they do basically like an ice patrol first thing. So as soon as they come in, they head out and they go out with their salt and make sure that anywhere that they see ice or potentially could be, they address that right away.
Do we use special salts for the sidewalks that's less eroding?
That's a good question. We use something called Blue Heat for the chapel area. That's the bed pavers, because it's a little bit less abrasive for that area. And then also for the tramway, because that platform is a bit more, the epoxy is a bit thicker, so we use blue salt there as well. But that's typically what we'll use in those areas, yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
Southtown.
Yes.
REAC's responsibility versus Related's responsibility with regard to sidewalks. This is a perennial, significant problem. And I've seen it change based on, who's president of REAC, the response to the clearing of the sidewalks. So within Commons West, between 425 and 455, whose responsibility is it to clear all those sidewalks?
So in Commons West, you mean the park area, or the sidewalks going out from the subway?
All of it.
All of it, okay.
All of it.
So, yeah, so the sidewalks going out from the subway, those have been issues in the past because it seemed it was unclear as to who should be taking care of that and then not doing it in a timely manner. So our Assistant Director of Grounds and Horticulture, Tom Infrati, actually just went over there this week and met with the property managers in that building to clarify, make sure everybody's on the same page. And in the end, we're all on the same team. Nobody wants anyone to get hurt. We all want to, clear the sidewalk areas and make sure that everything is safe for folks to get around. So we've had that discussion with the property managers and just reiterated those points. And, you know, to be honest, real world scenario, if they're running into an issue with something, you know, they can call us and we can help out and kind of like just
So
to
it's related
to get it done. It's
responsibility.
related responsibility, yeah.
So there's 15 years now, there's actually a broken sprinkler head at the top of the steps, right? You come out of Duane Reade and you're gonna walk up and there's those little gentle steps. So they have broken sprinkler head that leaks and makes a freezing puddle literally every year for 15 years. And it's been, like I said, different responses based on who's running REOC. Sometimes people come in and they mitigate it and they put a thing and they feel, people have historically put up barricades to try to keep people from going down the steps, which I think is totally inappropriate, given that that's an ingress and egress that people are used to using, you know, all year. So I want to make sure that we're ahead of that and that REOC is ensuring that Related is doing their job.
Yeah, so to clarify that, so the area I was referencing was the sidewalk along the west and east side, basically the sidewalk adjacent. And the Commons West area, that sprinkler head you're talking about, that is REOC's responsibility. So I will make a note of that.
Great.
And we shouldn't have any leaks because we blew out that system a week ago. It should be off.
Okay.
So that should be handled.
Always leaks.
But
Good.
I will look
Glad to
into
hear
that and make sure that that was done. And then, yes, for Commons West, those pathways would be REOC.
That's REOC, okay.
Yes.
Then, if you're at the subway station, that sidewalk, that's another perennial, and I've heard it belongs to the MTA.
The one right in front of the subway.
Right in front of the subway station.
Yeah.
Because you will literally see it cleared, and then not cleared,
Mhm.
and then cleared.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah, we will clear that area.
Awesome.
I don't ever see MTA staff coming to clear that.
right, but
We're gonna
literally,
clear.
there have been
I mean,
years where,
you know, I think that it's a good point, and I think it's something that, you know, we make a note of to just take care of. It's not a very large area,
it's
and,
really not, but it's a high traffic, you know, a lot of kids, the red bus comes, it's been a hot mess.
Yep.
Especially when we get a lot of snow and it compacts and it ices over and it melts and it ices over. So
Yep.
this is great to hear. And then on the Riverwalk, so we have the new Commons East Park, behind 430, 460, 480, whose responsibility is that?
the area that's the Esplanade,
Yes,
that's REAC.
okay, because that's another, lots of finger pointing, just last winter, you know, and I had to, I had to call up, you know, the building and said, this building's clear, this building's not clear, this building's clear. I talked to the building staff told me they removed the snow from one building, but not the other. And so you're telling me that's not their responsibility at all?
Do you mean the pathways leading from the building?
Nope.
Okay, you mean the Esplanade,
Esplanade.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
The seawall, it's.
That's REAC, that's right.
Okay. I'm glad we're clear.
Yeah.
And that's very good. And I'm expectant that it's going to be clear and remain clear. I'm excited about that.
Yeah, last year I had to push my daughter in a wheelchair from 460 to Sports Park whenever I wanted to get her to go swimming, so yeah. Along the end. It's very important. Clear.
I did want to note that I've noticed that along that section between the buildings and the ferry, we've historically had a standing water problem. Whatever y'all did to mitigate it, it's fixed, seems to be fixed. And also they've done a really great job of clearing the leaves. And so I just want to say thank you.
Great.
And thank your staff.
Appreciate that. I will take that back to the team. I know they did, they have
Again,
focused on that
that's a perennial
area.
problem,
Yeah.
so it was really nice to not have an inch of, you know, gooky, slippery leaf litter. So thank you.
So I have another question. Year to year, do you know, like you said, you had this amount of salt. Are we kind of on par of what we've been doing year to year?
Yes, historically, this is how much total tonnage we'll keep on site, yeah. And, you know, every year is different. Sometimes we use more, sometimes we use less. So as we go throughout the winter season, if we need to, order more and it's already paid for, it's just held off-site, then they come and deliver, and it's been a seamless process for us.
Do you think you need more or less, whatever? Any concerns we should know?
I mean, nothing's coming to mind right now, you know? No snow would be nice. If you have any, control over that, that'd be helpful, you know?
Well, that,
Yeah, all the lines are clear,
yes.
all that stuff.
What's important too is as we move along in fixing the roadways, that will also take care of, diminishing the potholes. So see, we're working right now back in by meditation steps, see how we're doing the sidewalks to transition. So that was the idea, because there was an area that was always puddling of water there. Now we have a complete curve. And next week we will do the pavement. So now all the water should run down to low point, to where it's supposed to go, in the basins of the, stormwater drains.
Actually, Alvaro, that's a great flag, yeah,
We
so
move along.
that's one of the areas
That
that
should-
have been an issue, and Alvaro
Yeah.
took it on with CPP to manage that area. So we're gonna repave the asphalt that's in between the two newly constructed curbs, the ADA curbs that were put in,
Yeah.
the week of, I think, December 8th.
December 8th,
Next
next
week
week.
to work on that, so we'll be able to mitigate the pooling that normally occurs.
Where are you talking about? I lost it, was,
In the vegetation lawn area by, River Cross Park, when you go down towards the subway,
right,
you have, the, crosswalk, right? That goes from the park into the, sidewalk that leads you to the train station.
yeah,
That area always puddles water
Yeah.
there, okay? So we took care of it by, lifting the sidewalk higher. And we did 8 inches higher in each side, 8 minus 1 inch, 8 and 7. So now that we did that, we had to go up on the sidewalk to create the correct slope for the ADA compliance on one side, and we'll do the other side too. That's why we had to remove, that section of the bushes that were there, because we needed the correct angle to go into the next sidewalk. So now that we have that high differential with the curve, the water is not gonna puddle there. It's gonna be forced, but now we have to fix the floor on the asphalt to allow the correct slope to go down into the stormwater base.
okay. Is anything done in front of Eastwood, Roosevelt Landing? Remember the last time they had, I didn't check it this time, but, when they did their, demolishing of the glass, and there was, a flooding into the entranceway, has that been remediated?
So that's Roosevelt Landing's
Yeah.
responsibility, right, so
Yeah.
that's not under REACT's purview, and that's actually something that, we followed up with them on this week, and they're still sorting out kind of the design change for that, and how they're gonna address it, but they did say that in the meantime, they're gonna make sure that their maintenance team stays on top of kind of clearing out any pooling that does occur in that area, so that's how they're staying on top of it. And just to add to Alvaro's, explanation of the west side area by, the meditation lawn, so our next step with the area that continues, towards the subway, is we're gonna do some community outreach to kind of understand and get some ideas on, potentially re-envisioning that walkway in that area. That's the area that has the kind of high shrubs, right now currently, and seeing maybe what ideas the community has about, potentially just changing that space, maybe taking them down or making them smaller, or, putting in benches or seating, anything like that. So we're gonna do some outreach to understand if there's a community sentiment that should be considered. But the overall goal is to, continue that sidewalk along, the west side.
The ideal is to have a 9 feet clearance. Then it's widely open, and we can envision in the future also maybe adding a bike lane or something in that, along that area. That communicates between the front of the train into the Eleanor Spear down. 'Cause right now, there is nothing that communicates that. So by doing 9, the idea now is not about bike lane, I just threw this out here. 9 feet gives you enough clearance for you to even be able to do maintenance. If you need to maintain, you don't have to block the street. You could actually be in the sidewalk working on the light pole or doing some work So ideally, we did 9 feet because of ADA requirements, but we wanted to do so that it's a nice line. But to do that, we have to cut or remove part of the shrubs. And that's what Mary says, we need to reach out to the community to see what the sentiment is on that.
Okay. The other thing I had, question, I think it is a winter preparedness thing. Were you gonna move on? Just before you move on. I sent out an email about, the heat issue in Good Shepherd Church.
Yeah, it was actually addressed today, yeah.
So the problem there is, okay, so we had recently replaced one of the units, not to be too technical, the outside unit, the condensing unit, we replaced. The internals we could not replace because it's behind walls, right? We cannot, but we did a retro commissioning, we make sure everything is working the way it's supposed to be. But the control system is faulty, so we are already addressing it. When the control system failed, and it failed to control the temperature there. And that's why we had to send the staff to see if they can manually energize that. So what we have done is we have raised the set point to 75. I know it sounds a lot, but it's not, because we want to keep it like that so that the control system does not override that number. We put it high until we get the technicians here. We already called, we're getting them to schedule as soon as they have availability. And that's why it failed. Now, additionally, in the perimeter of the church, we have about 16 space heaters, electric heaters, that are there to aid in the heating process. Only 2 work. We already put the order, okay, because the idea is to put this in CapEx, to capitalize this, right, instead of spending the operations money. So we're already building to buy the space heaters and to replace that, to help next to the benches, to make sure that that's warm.
Excellent.
So we have that on the works. But the reason for not holding temperature was because of the controls. The control system failed. Whereas downstairs, it's nice and cozy. Downstairs it's 72, it's very good.
Yeah.
And it's the same control system, but just the upstairs is where it failed. So we are addressing that.
So the only way to adjust the temperature is in the ceiling where the person went into up there?
That is to reset.
Okay.
So what happens is when you have a low temperature, there is something called freeze start, that is supposed to shut down the unit so you don't freeze the pipes. That's what happened. And that failed. So the machine shut down incorrectly because the communication failed. So it's not seeing that and it's thinking it's cold. That's all it was. So we bypass it manually until we get it corrected.
All right. And the other issue is just to train your staff to be very considerate of the services so not to go in during the service to do the maintenance. So that's the issue. We follow that. I don't know what happened. I cannot say, but from what I was informed, the maintenance team went there, talked to the, what do you call the person there? The pastor, thank you. And they told them they'll come back at a certain time, and they did, and within an hour or so that they were practicing, that's when they went up. They did not interrupt, from what I was informed today, by the maintenance team. So I don't know where the gap was. Yeah, the pastor, okay, so there was apparently one service, and then they came in between services, and then it got cold again. That was the service I was at. That was the one I was talking to, and then they came in between, in the middle of the service the second time. So that was the question.
This was this Sunday?
Yeah, they came during Good Shepherd's first service.
Yeah.
Because I actually went into public safety, because it's been a weeks-long problem. So I went in on Saturday to ask that they ensure that the heat is on. I was told we will make sure that the heat is on. I messaged somebody before I got to the building saying, is the heat on? The heat is not on. So then I called public safety and they said, we called maintenance. And then an hour later, is the heat on? The heat is not on. I called public safety again and they said to me, we don't know. We called maintenance. So,
okay, you know what? I'm glad that we're talking about it here and not to elongate the meeting.
Yeah.
But that's why we have the ticket system. That's
The
how-
tickets have been put in.
Okay, but then
Yeah,
that's what
they-
we all have to hold ourselves
Yes.
accountable, right?
The tickets have been put
If the
in.
ticket was put in,
It was,
and
last week.
we're gonna go back and see.
Please,
And then we're gonna see how long it took to close,
thank
who went there and what was done about it.
thank you.
Because if the ticket did not come
Yeah.
through, with all due respect, then there was no, how can we go back and check what was done and how many times they've come? If
Yeah.
somebody calls on the phone and say, oh, I called maintenance, how do I trace that, if that is,
Sure.
it
The
actually
reason why
happened
the
or
phone
not?
calls is because the tickets were not being answered. Yeah.
Well, at that point, somebody please emails me or email Megdy, we are responsible to making sure. And I will discuss with Megdy tomorrow to make sure that we check that all the tickets get closed within 20 minutes, huh?
Oh, Maddie.
Megdy, the maintenance, director.
Yeah, but we'll go back and we'll look at the ticket
Yes.
system and
Just
see
it.
if, you know, anything happens.
But now that,
Yeah, yeah.
that we are, directly informed,
Yeah.
me and him, we are gonna make sure that we're gonna be checking that every day until we get it.
Awesome, thank you.
Hmm?
Because it's, I mean,
Things are coming up, Christmas season.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, it seemed that we have already moved on to the other, committee, business, but in case there are, anything else, yes, please.
Bless you.
Thank you.
So, my name is Joel Maxman, I just moved to, Manhattan Park. I moved back to Roosevelt Island after a many-decade absence. Thank you.
Come back.
My apartment's in that orange box area that you had when you showed the AVAC system. What I didn't know, what I was not aware of when I saw the apartment during the daytime was that between midnight and 5 a.m., there are dumpsters being dropped on the AVAC parking lot at the north end of this building. I spoke to someone at the Friday morning, REAC, customer
constituency
services,
I see.
back in September. She said she'd get back to me. I didn't hear anything. 2 weeks later, I went into the REAC office. They asked the same question. They said they'd get back to me. I've been emailing about every 10 days since September, and the answer I get is, we're looking into it. So who should I be talking to? Who's looking into it? How do I do something about these 110 decibels that are being dropped outside my window between midnight and 5 a.m.? Not every night, not on a specific time frame, because then I could call 311, but they can't come out unless you tell them exactly when it is.
Yeah, I understand that's disruptive. I'm gonna look into that and see
Yeah.
where we are with it.
So Mary is COO.
Sorry?
She's the COO of the organization, so that's the person.
Yeah, if you want, we can touch base after.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're in 40 River Road?
40, yeah, right inside that orange box that you have.
What a welcome back, right?
Thank you. Yeah, exactly.
So Mary, just, I'm sorry to backtrack, but thank you for kind of jogging my memory. So when that pipe is being replaced, is it all underground, or is that box to be ripped up, and is that going to impact traffic?
It's going to be ripped up, the pipe is underground, traffic will be impacted.
And no other business?
Two of the things I just want to mention quickly, the MTA is going to be at our farmers market this Saturday to talk about the F&M swap. That is going into effect as of Monday, December 8th. So they'll be at the farmers market if anyone wants to speak to anyone from the MTA about the particulars related with that. They've also had team members in the station here at the island handing out pamphlets, talking to commuters, letting them know about the change. I believe the signage was changed as well, so now it says M instead of F out there. And then lastly, in mid-December, the MetroCard machines at the tramway stations will be removed. As I think everyone may know or may not know, the MetroCard is being sunset as of the end of this year, and everything is transitioned to Omni. So we'll have,
Leftovers of lunch credit.
you use it now. Use it now.
But I
Yeah.
can't, because it's less than a toll, or whatever.
So to like,
Yeah.
get them to, you have to hand them enough money to put to 290, so you can get your swipe.
Oh, you have to mention that they're not gonna be able to get the image. I asked Mary whether or not they were going to replace it with a machine, but they're not gonna be any machines there.
No machines at the train.
There would be no machine, no Omni machines at the tram, right? There's, I believe Dwayne Reed is a retailer, the F-Train station has an Omni machine, and then on the Manhattan side, there's several stores local to that. And we've actually brought this up at the Triva meeting. I believe if any local businesses would like to become retailers of the Omni cards, that the MTA has a program for that. And they're happy to participate.
Oh, wait a second, so they're removing all Omni machines from?
MetroCard.
MetroCard, just the Metro. But I thought in the place of where the MetroCard, in the placement, I was asking Mary whether or not they were gonna put the Omni machine there, but they're not.
And they're looking for retailers to sell Omni cards, that's what you're saying?
There's a program for retailers that are interested to sell Omni cards through the MTA.
I'm not looking forward to the change of trains, personally.
So I just wanted to bring up, I asked, both Mary and, Ben, BJ, to, look into, providing metrics for us to look at for operation. So
I'm sorry, Lydia, I didn't hear.
No, I'm just saying that, I wanted to bring up that I had requested that there be, metrics, operations metrics that we can look at. So I just
Yeah.
put it on the table.
I believe that's something that BJ and I have discussed. I think he probably has spoken to you about as well, about looking at preparing metrics a bit more in depth, and maybe at an early next year or mid next year. So I think he's working on that. But.
All right,
Okay.
Thank you so much.
appreciate it.
Yes, we had a very detailed meeting today. Do we have a motion to close the meeting?
I'll make the motion.
Second. Okay, I guess.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone. Mike, you give me.
Just the email.
Golding?
We just want